Listen to the JT Sports Podcast on all podcasting platforms and leave a 5-star review.
Tennessee upsets Alabama 52-49. This was one of the greatest football games that I have ever watched. And I'm not talking about one of the greatest college football games. I'm talking about one of the greatest football games ever. Out of all of the NFL, college football, high school football games that I've watched, this has been one of the greatest games ever. Because there were so many twists and turns in this game. Because Tennessee came out absolutely hot. I mean, they were guns blazing. They were up 28-10 early in the second quarter. And if you're an Alabama fan and you're listening to this right now, I want you to comment what your reaction was. Were you a little bit surprised? Were you worried? Or were you calm? Were you saying, you know what? Yeah, Tennessee is up on us early, but we're going to come back because we have Jahmyr Gibbs and Bryce Young. Well, if you were one of the calm Alabama fans, you deserve a huge round of applause because I didn't see too many of you guys on Twitter. There were a lot of Alabama fans who were freaking out about the defense. And, you know, there was a point where even me, I knew that Alabama was going to find a way to climb back into the game. But I didn't know that Alabama wouldn't be able to seal the deal. Alabama had 17 penalties in this game. Absolutely unbelievable. I can't recall the last time I saw this much dirty laundry in a football game since my first middle school game that I ever played in. I mean, there were penalties every single play in that game, but it was just unbelievable. I mean, you had the pass interference call that led to Tennessee tying the game. I mean, there were just so many penalties on Alabama's behalf that make you just scratch your head and say, wow, like, are we really watching a Nick Saban coach team right now? When is the last time you can recall Alabama having this many penalties in the game? Oh, I can. Remember when they narrowly lost to Texas early this season? They also had a lot of penalties in that game. However, they were able to escape because that was Texas. However, they couldn't escape this time. You were not going to be able to have 17 penalties and still be able to beat Tennessee if you were Alabama. That just wasn't going to happen because, you see, Tennessee had Hendon Hooker at quarterback. And the reason why Texas lost and why Tennessee was able to beat Alabama is because when Texas needed big plays from their quarterback down the stretch, they couldn't get it. Quinn Ewers left the game. Hudson Card had to come in. And although he didn't play bad, he didn't play good enough to beat Alabama. You see, when you think about all of the teams over the last couple of years who have upset Alabama, they all have had historical performances from their quarterbacks. And even then, remember when Texas A&M upset Alabama with Zach Calzada? Even though Zach Calzada didn't have the kind of performance that Hendon Hooker had in this game, or Johnny Manziel did years ago in this matchup, he performed outstanding considering the expectations that people had for him going into that matchup. So you got to have a superstar-esque performance or kind of like a phenomenally of a performance if you want to be able to upset Alabama. And you have to get that performance out of your quarterback. And Tennessee got that today out of Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker made a strong claim for the Heisman Trophy after this game. I mean, the dude was lights out. And although he did have one interception, he made up for it. And, you know, it's crazy because if you were an Alabama fan and you felt calm about your chances of being able to come back and win this game because you had Bryce Young, you probably were feeling the same way if you were a Tennessee fan. Because no matter what happened, Hendon Hooker always had an answer. He always had a counter. He always had a mean right hook. And even when Alabama got hot and they had scored 18 straight points and Tennessee was yet to respond during that span, you still could see that Hendon Hooker and Tennessee was still really composed. And then eventually, Hendon Hooker and company, they ended up getting back going again. Jalen Hyatt, I mean, the dude was sensational tonight. 6 receptions for 207 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. I can't remember the last time I saw Alabama secondary get torched single-handedly by one wide receiver. This was crazy. I mean, Tennessee's offense was absolutely dominant. And even though Alabama's defense hasn't been the greatest this year, I mean, for Tennessee to come into this game and for their offense to roll the way they did was sensational. And going into this matchup, you knew that there were going to be a lot of points scored in this game. But if you were to tell me that Tennessee was going to hang 50 points on Alabama's defense, I kind of would be a little bit taken back by that. Now, I wouldn't be shocked, or I wouldn't laugh at you or call you crazy for that, because I definitely could see that happening, or could have seen that happening. But the chances of that happening, in my eyes, would have been pretty low. At best, Tennessee gets to 42, 45, but them getting to 50, I thought, no way. Well, that happened. I mean, Tennessee's offense was looking like a well-oiled machine. And Nick Saban and Alabama's defense at times, they couldn't really get set. I mean, there were a lot of blown coverages by Alabama's defense, lack of communication on their part, and it was mainly due to the tempo and pace of Tennessee's offense. I mean, Tennessee really came into this game, and they really came and played their game. You see, oftentimes when you have teams playing Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, they get thrown off their game. That didn't happen with Tennessee. And you look at this win, you definitely have to say that Tennessee, without a doubt, is the best team in college football right now. I just don't understand how you can't. I mean, this team just took down Alabama. Not only that, but they do have a pretty good quantity of ranked wins. They beat Pitt. You got this Alabama win. I mean, this Tennessee team right now, without a doubt, has to be your number one team if you are out here doing power rankings or AP polls. If you're an AP poll voter, Tennessee deserves your first place vote. Now, they play Georgia in a couple weeks. Now, before the season, we all said that, well, I won't say we all said, but a good amount of us pretty much said that if Tennessee is to have a season where they make it to the SEC championship game, they're not going to do it beating both Alabama and Georgia. Well, they beat Alabama. Now can they beat Georgia? And even then, before the season, I don't even think too many people thought that Tennessee could even beat Alabama or Georgia. I mean, most of us probably thought that Tennessee didn't have a chance in any one of those games. And yet they beat Alabama. So, I mean, they do have a pretty good chance of being able to beat Georgia. I mean, this offense is explosive. Their defense can get stops in critical moments of the game. And on top of that, they can actually clutch up and make field goals when they matter. And for Alabama, it's really shocking when you look at how many mistakes they made in this game. I mean, you had the debacle with the punt return that gave Tennessee another possession. I mean, Alabama, gave Tennessee this game. And despite that, they almost stole it away from them. Despite giving them this game, they almost took it back from them. They almost took back their gift. And that goes to show you how good this Alabama team was. But at the same time, that also goes to show you the kind of performance that Tennessee had in this game. Because let's be honest, this Tennessee team right now, offensively, reminds me a lot. Well, I'm not going to say that, but they do have some similarities to that 2019 championship winning LSU offense. Now, I don't think that they have the kind of star power that LSU had at wide receiver that year. Because, I mean, they had 3 NFL wide receivers, Terrence Marshall, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Tennessee definitely does have some really good wide receivers in this room, such as Hyatt and Brew McCoy. But I don't think it's as good as what that LSU room was, that 2019 season. However, their quarterback is really good, Hendon Hooker. He's efficient, doesn't take care of the ball. He's really good in third down situations. I mean, it's just really hard to get Tennessee's offense off the field when Hendon Hooker is cooking. So, let me know what you guys think about Tennessee's upset bid against Alabama, 52-49. How far do you guys think the Vols can go this season? Can they beat Georgia? Will they beat Georgia? Will they remain unbeaten? Let me know down in the comment section down below if you're listening to this on YouTube.